Welcome to the Futurist Mindset Show. Hello, everyone. My name is Tessa, and I'm here to introduce you to your host, Reagan Rodriguez. Reagan is a futurist who teaches stratosphere wealthy legacy families how to become impact investors. Before I turn it over to Reagan, I just want to share with you all that most people spend their entire lives chasing income without ever realizing there's a completely different game being played underneath it all. In today's episode, Regan is going to break down one of the most overlooked and quietly profitable asset classes in the United States today, land. With that said, Regan, take it away.
Thank you, Tessa, for that intro. And if you're watching this, then you probably didn't wander in here by accident. You crossed a threshold that 99% of the world never even approaches. Most people cling to their jobs, their paychecks, to the illusion that somehow retirement will take care of them. But you moved anyways. You sought leverage. You sought autonomy. You sought capital that obeys you and not the other way around. And because you made that move, you're already further than the majority that just, I don't know, buy courses or maybe they read some page and then they just go back into the shadows of their own life. But if you're here and you're listening to this, then just know that showing up is the first thing to do, right? That works. Um, Tessa, as you know, Eric Perry that works with me that also got trained through me and does very well. And he mentioned that he appreciates that my training is not frozen in time. And I asked him, what did he mean by that? And he said, look, I've been to a lot of seminars, I've been to a lot of workshops, and it just seems to me that most of them are archaic. They seem like they're 10 or 20 years old. And he mentioned to me that he thinks that it's probably because people stop doing the work. And I don't. I'm a creator. So I continue to adapt. I also continue to take risks. And what I don't want you to do is inheriting what I call a museum. Okay, what I'm here to talk to you about, I'm active about. I'm breathing. I am constantly updating. I am not a teacher, I am a practitioner. So every pivot, every module you see here is what I've executed right now in this economy, in this cycle, in this data environment. And when the market changes, guess what? I change with it and I do so immediately. This is the difference between being taught a skill and being indoctrinated into a capital engine. Tessa, I'm sensing you may have a question that may have us see or think things differently.
Yeah, how many times have you learned something and then felt excited for a moment and watched yourself slowly fall back into the same patterns? And if nothing changes, where does that path actually lead you?
That's good, Tessa, because we need to take action and need to execute. So on that note, why land? Let's kind of strip away the fluff. Land is the purest, cleanest asset class in the United States because there are no tenants. You don't have to deal with broken roofs or calls that come in at 3 in the morning. I also like that there isn't any maintenance. You don't have to deal with emotional sellers that maybe are clinging to those childhood memories. I also like it because it's just plain real estate, the substract, the foundation behind every home, building, tower, subdivision, and fortune. And while the world stampedes towards houses, apartments, flipping, wholesaling, and those same tired strategies, what I'm going to teach you how to do is how to profit in the blind spots. Because land has a low barrier of entry. Deals that maybe start at a few $100s. There's also low holding costs. And also the taxes can sometimes be as low as 25 to 75 a year. So guess what? That also means there's low competition. Almost nobody is mailing the owners that I teach people to target. There's also a high scalability. There aren't any inspections or appraisals or contractors to deal with. I also like that there's high margins. You could buy for 1,000, maybe sell for 6,000 or 10,000 or 18,000. And guess what, guys? You can do this repeatedly. I also like that there's owner financing windfalls. In other words, positive cash flow from month one, unlike houses that have mortgages that eat that away. I also like that land transactions are not time sensitive. There isn't any pressure. You can then negotiate on your terms. And that initiate is why the Underground Club built its blueprint around land, because it's the quiet profits that are in an overlooked asset class. I am kind of hesitant on whether I should share this because it is one of our trade secrets. So what I'm going to do is I'll just briefly maybe refer to the titles within those 10 step on our blueprint, because that is the operating system that I kind of give to the members of the Underground Club. Everything they teach that they learn runs through one master sequence. So we begin with selecting that territory and then we pull that target list. Third thing we do is we deploy that direct mail weapon. We then handle incoming leads. We then do a limited amount of research. I title that Performing a Light Reckoning. And then we make that written offer. And the seventh thing we do is we negotiate those terms of control. After that's done, then we perform the full due diligence. And then we choose the exit strategy. And then the 10th strategy is that we close and collect. And you're going to repeat these steps and again until that process becomes your economic identity. What I want to teach you guys do is how to do each step with precision. I also don't want you to have any kind of guesswork. So those that are members of the Underground Club know that I take actionable procedures that we're going to do.
So if it's that simple and the barriers are that low, why isn't everyone doing it? I mean, what stops people from actually following through?
Well, before any of you guys begin, I do want to warn you because Tessa was right when she said, why isn't everybody doing this? And guess what, guys? You can still have this blueprint and still die broke because information has never made anyone wealthy. I have noticed that execution does, which is why this program and your success is going to hinder on two codes. The two codes of the Underground Club is number one, consistency. I do not want you missing any weeks. I know that life gets busy, but let's not disappear. Let's instead mail every week because when mailing is consistent, I've noticed that then the inbound calls are consistent. And then the contracts that are signed are going to be consistent. And so is the closing. And then the cash flow is going to be consistent. And then the wealth is just going to be inevitable because consistency is the first law within our club. Let me go on to what I call code two, which is volume. You're not going to be able to scale on just 50 letters a week. You're also not going to be able to build some kind of a capital engine on hesitation. So what I'm going to recommend is that you start where you can. Maybe you can start with 100 letters, and then the moment revenue arrives, you increase the volume because volume is going to create that deal flow, which is then going to create that confidence, which is then going to fuel that expansion. Let's also remember that the expansion is going to create wealth.
At what point do you stop learning and actually decide who you are? Because this doesn't sound like just a strategy, it sounds like a different identity.
I'm glad you brought that up, Tessa. That's good because you're right. Your real initiation begins now because you have the background, you have the reasoning, you now have the architecture that I gave you. So now at this point, it's as simple as just making a decision. Do you participate in the world's economy or do you manipulate it? Do you want to remain a consumer of opportunity, or do you want to become a creator of capital? I teach people how to become tacticians of off-market value and a quiet accumulator of hidden value. Let others, what I'm going to teach you is how to build an empire and not just focus on your retirement. Tessa, on that note, will you be so kind as to close us out of here like you always do?
I'd love to. If this show shifted the way you see opportunities, then make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming.